cheating, and lost rings. It happened a few weeks ago. It was a Thursday morning, and I was already up trying to get our two kids ready for school when the phone rang. Since it was only 7:30, I wondered who it could be calling. The caller ID showed it was an out-of-range number, which made me wonder even more. "Hello?" I said into the receiver. "John, it's me." It was Claire, my wife. I wonder what she wants, I thought, since we had just talked together the night before. My wife works as a representative for a small marketing and printing firm in our mid-sized city and travels a lot. I more or less take care of our kids, as I work from home, only occasionally going out to our office in town. Anyway, it suits us fine, and the two of us make good money. We have a nice 4-bedroom house in the suburbs with a pool and a good group of friends. "What's wrong, Claire?" "I've got a problem, honey. My wallet was stolen last night when I went down to the hotel lobby to get the paper. You need to cancel our credit cards and get them to issue new ones ASAP. I talked to Joy, my boss, and she will arrange to have a new American Express card sent to me tonight so I can get it tomorrow before I leave. She'll also wire me some cash to get me through. You're usually very careful with your purse. What happened?" "I was a little careless and put it on the checkout counter while I went to get some other reading material, and when I came back it was gone. The cashier said she was distracted by another customer and didn't notice anything. My driver's license is missing too, but the hotel is sending someone to check the dumpsters in the area, and I hope they find it. Otherwise, I'll have to take a cab to my meeting today." "Okay, I'll take care of the credit cards as fast as I can." "I'm sorry for being so careless, honey. Hopefully it won't cost us more than the $200 or so I had in my wallet. The rest of the cards I had can be replaced over time. Most of my makeup was in the room, so I'll be ready for the presentation this morning. How are the kids? I miss you guys." That's exactly what happened about 6 weeks ago. I managed to cancel my credit cards before there were any charges, and they found her wallet with her driver's license and other non-credit cards, so I just forgot about it. Our life went on. Today I'm looking at my wife's account statement at Fidelity. She keeps a separate investment account because that's where she, a few years ago, put her inheritance after her parents died in a car accident. I try to respect her privacy regarding that account, but I was looking for our home insurance policy and came across a folder with her monthly account statements. I knew that when her parents died, the inheritance was about $350,000, and I wondered what the account was worth now. I was pleased to see that it was now over $400,000. As I looked through the statement, I noticed that about 6 weeks ago, $3,000 had been withdrawn from her account. And I wondered what she had spent that money on. My curiosity piqued. I delved into the details of her bank account and discovered that she had written a check for that amount at a jewelry store in the town where she had lost her purse, a couple of days after she had been there. What did she buy at the jewelry store? I wondered. She hadn't bought anything for herself, and I hadn't heard her mention buying jewelry for anyone else. She has a brother, but I didn't think he deserved a $3,000 gift. After a few minutes of thought, I went to my computer, found the jewelry store's website, and wrote down the phone number. After picking up the phone, I dialed the store's number. The phone was picked up by a woman who named the store and then asked how she could help me. I identified myself and the deal I was interested in, then explained that we were having trouble with the purchase and wanted to know if it had a store warranty. She took a minute to look up the information on her computer and asked me, "You apparently have a problem with the rings." Rings, I asked myself. What kind of rings was she buying? I was happy when the girl on the phone suddenly spoke again. "Oh, I remember that purchase. The lady was very upset when she came in and told us that her wedding and engagement rings had been stolen and she wanted to replace them. It took us quite a while to find 2 rings that would suit her. She used the company credit card as collateral and after a few days sent us a check. You're saying there was a problem with them? We offer a 90-day warranty on them. A loose diamond in the setting? Did she replace her wedding and engagement rings?" I was puzzled. She never talked about losing them, only about having her purse stolen. I had to think more about it. "Listen," I said to the girl. "I need to talk to my wife about this and call you back. I'll call you back later." "Okay, bye." She looked puzzled, but not as puzzled as I was. Obviously, the rings must have been in her purse when she was stolen. Why would they be in her purse? Unless she didn't want others to know she was married. There were no restrictions on marriage at her job as far as I know. However, if she wanted to appear unmarried in a social situation, I reasoned, that could mean she wanted to be a player when she was out of the house. The thought immediately made my stomach churn. We had been married for 11 years, had 2 children, Jeremy, age 7, and Melissa, age 6, and I thought we had the perfect marriage and family. Our love life was fine, or so I thought. Why would she be looking for love outside of our marriage? She usually traveled once a month and stayed 2 or 3 nights in some distant town, so if she wanted to play around, she would feel safe doing it then. Losing the rings must have really scared her, and she decided to replace them with some that looked as much like the originals as possible. I bought them when I wasn't making much money, and they weren't fancy, so getting a good likeness wouldn't have been very expensive. She could file a claim with our insurance company, but I would probably find out about it. If she did have her purse stolen at the hotel, she should have reported it. I wondered what she had told them about the missing. I found the hotel number and called them. I asked if they had a record of my wife's purse being stolen. When they replied that they had a written account of the incident, I asked if they could fax me a copy. A few minutes later, I had a copy. The statement was drafted and signed by Claire. In it, she described how her purse had been stolen while she was dancing in the lobby. She had left the purse in the booth where she was sitting, and when she returned to her seat, it was gone. The hotel noted that Claire didn't want to involve the police. My mind raced with the implications of what I'd discovered. She'd lied to me about the rings being stolen, and she'd lied to me about them being stolen from the gift store. Maybe there was some other explanation, but I couldn't imagine any other scenario than the disgusting thoughts that were swirling around in my head. I knew I had to find out what the loss of those rings meant, or it would drive me crazy, but it was becoming obvious that the rings had been in her purse when she danced with some unknown man. After that, she had left on a trip a couple weeks ago and was supposed to go on another trip in a couple days. And I needed to get a little more information about the itinerary of her next trip. I wanted to find out what she did in the evenings when she was away from home. If she had intimate relationships with other men, then maybe losing the rings was enough to scare her. I knew that if I found out she had been unfaithful to me, it would probably be the end of our marriage, although the effect on the children was something I didn't want to think about. She was a great mother, but I couldn't let her get custody if we separated and she traveled and made love. My mind worked at pace, trying to figure out how to find other clues as to her fidelity. What else could tell me what she was doing during her travels? I had a vasectomy after our second child was born, and pregnancy would have been an absolute no-no. She couldn't trust a man to bring protection, so she had to have her own supply. Where would she store them? She couldn't keep them at home or in her car, so she would have to keep them in her office at work. Most likely, she would have them with her when she went on business trips. She always carried her business papers, laptop, and presentation materials in a large briefcase that she kept in her office. However, if she left on an early morning flight, she would bring the briefcase home the night before and then take it and her suitcase to the airport. That was the key. I had to find a way to search the briefcase before she left. Her next trip, I hoped, would involve an early morning flight. I decided I had to keep my cool so I wouldn't alert her that something was wrong. I shouldn't have worried because when the kids got home from school, I was too busy to worry, but the possibility that she was cheating on me remained in the back of my mind. When Claire got home from work, I had a minor accident while making dinner. A dish of beans slipped out of my hands and fell to the floor. I set about cleaning up with my usual calmness. And since there were kids running around, I seemed a little agitated, so I don't think she noticed anything odd about my behavior. When things calmed down and the mess was cleaned up, I greeted her with a kiss on the cheek like I usually did, and we sat down to eat. As we ate, we usually chatted about how our day had gone, so I didn't think it was unusual to ask about her upcoming trip. "Are you leaving again in a couple days?" "Oh, yeah. It's pretty much the same thing again. I'm not looking forward to it." "If you don't like it, why don't you apply for another position? You've been with the company long enough and know enough about it. You could fit in just about anywhere." "Already thought about it, but I want to do a little more work before I sit down at the table." I decided to prick her conscience a little. "The kids and I miss you a lot when you're gone." "I know, and I'm sorry about that. I miss you too." "So, where are you going this time, and are you leaving in the morning so we can meet before you leave?" I looked at her, mindful that the kids were listening. I thought I was making a good game of pretending everything was normal, although I was having trouble eating as my stomach was in turmoil. She obviously thought everything was fine because she responded to me in the same way. I wondered if her stomach was giving her trouble, but she seemed to eat without any problems. Maybe I was wrong about her, but if I could have checked her briefcase, I would have a better opinion of her fidelity. "I'm only going to Denton, so I'm leaving in the morning, a 7:30 flight, and I need something to last me until I get back on Friday." She winked back at me. "That's good." I winked back, trying to act normal, and she blushed. That meant she would bring her briefcase home the evening before she left and wouldn't go to work until she left for the airport. Her carefree attitude about her trip in the presence of our children and me seemed to indicate that she doesn't play around when she's away, or she's used to cheating. I was hoping the briefcase would tell the whole story. The evening before she left, Claire came home in a good mood and, as usual, put her car next to mine in the garage. She seemed excited about something, and I wondered if she was anticipating love with me or someone else. She hadn't brought her briefcase with her, so I assumed it was in her car. I was working on making dinner, and as we sat down to eat, she asked me if I would pick up her bag from the garage when we were done eating. "Sure, you have everything you'll need?" "Oh yeah, it's a regular trip. I have my briefcase in the car ready to go, and I'll just pack my bag with the usual stuff I need for a couple nights." "Do you have any plans for while I'm gone?" "No. The kids and I are just going to do our own thing, like we usually do during the week. Maybe we could do something together as a family this weekend." "That sounds like a good idea. I'll look forward to that." After dinner, she helped me clear the table and the kitchen, then filled the dishwasher. After turning it on, she went to the bedroom to pack up her things, and I headed to the garage to get her bag. In the garage, I looked in her car but didn't see the briefcase and assumed it was locked in the trunk. I had anticipated this and figured out how to get to it in the evening. Back in the bedroom with her bag, I asked, "Where are your car keys? You have a flat tire and probably have a slow leak. If I bring it to the gas station, I can have Jerry fix it right away." She looked confused for a minute and then reached for her purse. Holding out her keys to me, she asked, "Can't you just put the spare in?" "That's just for emergencies. We have time to fix it, so I think that's what we should do," I told her, heading back to the garage before she had a chance to think. Quickly driving her car out of the garage, I headed to the corner gas station that my high school buddy Jerry owned. Pulling up to one of his bays, I honked my horn. He saw me and opened the door, allowing me to drive in and close it behind me. "How's it going?" "I was supposed to be here to fix a tire, but I needed time to check on something else." "Trouble at home, buddy?" "Maybe," I told him, opening the trunk and pulling out Claire's briefcase. Putting it on the desktop, I used the key on her ring to open it. "Well, I have a customer, so have fun," Jerry told me as he headed back to the small store he ran with his station. I very carefully began searching through the briefcase as I didn't want to disturb anything unnecessarily. After checking a few pockets in the flap, my fingers found the package I retrieved. My heart dropped when I saw the open package of contraceptives. There were about 3 missing. My worst suspicions were confirmed. I put the package back, closed, and locked the briefcase. Putting the briefcase back in the trunk, I closed it and turned around when Jerry returned. "Did you find what you were looking for?" "I'm afraid I did. I wonder if you could let me stay here for a while. Maybe you can check the air in her tires so I can tell her I fixed the problem." "Okay, I can do that." He just gave me a funny look, but kept silent. He was a true friend. After checking him out, I drove out of the bay, pulled up to the gas stations and filled up the tank. There's no telling when I'll be able to do that again. I thanked Jerry for his hospitality and headed home. My thoughts were very gloomy, and I was on the verge of hyperventilating when I pulled back into our garage. I felt rage and disappointment that she had done this to me, the kids, and our marriage. Then my thoughts began to plan my next move. I needed to get definitive proof of her adulterous, immoral behavior to make sure I got custody of our children. She was a good mother, and children need a mother, and I would allow visitation. But my goal was full legal custody. She would have to explain to her brother and friends why we were divorced. Entering the house, I shouted into the bedroom, "It's done." It was just a little nail. "Okay, thank you." I couldn't make eye contact with her yet, so I went to the kitchen and got a beer, then went into the family room to the kids who were watching TV. About half an hour later, Claire came into the room and sat next to me on the couch. By then, I had managed to cool down, although I was very sad that this once happy family would soon be a thing of the past. Claire moved over to me and snuggled against me. "Are you ready for tonight, stud?" she whispered in my ear. I took a sip of my beer before answering, "I think so, but my stomach is failing me." "Oh, that's too bad, honey," she told me, snuggling closer. I automatically put my arm around her shoulders, and somehow I felt tender toward her. I wondered why she did that. Was it for arousal, or did she just need more love than I could give her? I would probably never know. All I knew was that my trust in her was gone. We both put the kids to bed, and I watched her as she kissed our two little angels goodnight. When they got up in the morning, she was gone, but they weren't worried because she had traveled so much. That night, we made love. It wasn't hot, passionate love, but rather a farewell intimacy. She could feel my sadness. "Is your stomach still bothering you, honey?" "Yeah, but I'll get over it." "Do you really need to go on this trip?" I asked, hoping she would put our love and our marriage first. Maybe I was hoping this was all a nightmare, and it would all go away if she stayed home with us. "I'm sorry, honey. It's a must, and I'll try to get out and come home as soon as possible. I'm really looking forward to this weekend with you guys." "Okay, honey," I sighed. "You better get some sleep. You have to get up early to catch your flight." "I'll take a quick shower first, then I won't have to do it in the morning." "Okay." While she was in the shower, I walked over and looked in her bag to see what she had packed. Most of the clothes on top were business clothes, but I found a stash underneath with the sexiest lingerie and the little black cocktail dress I found so beautiful. It looked like she was going to be a busy girl while she was out. Carefully shifting the bag the way I found it, I zipped up the lid and went to bed. I didn't sleep too well that night, and when I heard Claire get up around 5 in the morning, I didn't get out of bed to say goodbye like I usually did. I knew I felt tired and sad at the same time, and I knew the anger would start to build later in the day. "Still not feeling well, sweetie?" she asked, kissing me goodbye on the cheek as I lay next to her. After I heard the garage door close and she drove away, I got up and went to take a shower. I had a busy day ahead of me. After getting the kids ready for school and eating breakfast, I pulled out the phone book and flipped through the yellow pages looking for a private investigator, especially one that had branches all over the country. I called several of them and found one with a branch in Denton, where Claire was headed, and made an appointment with them that same morning. I then found a divorce attorney that a friend of mine had used in the past and praised very highly. I called and made an appointment to meet with him in the afternoon. When I got to the private investigator's office, I arranged for Claire to be watched in the evenings when she was out and for them to get pictures and a report of her activities after her cases were over for the day. I brought a picture of Claire and her itinerary with me, so they would have no trouble finding and identifying her. They said they would email the information to the Denton office and provide me with a report by Monday morning. I told them everything would be fine and made a large down payment for their services. They warned me that they would probably not be able to get pictures of their intimacy, but would try to provide as many incriminating pictures as possible. I told them that would be fine with me. The afternoon meeting with the lawyer went as I had hoped. He told me that we were in a no-fault state as far as the divorce was concerned, but since I was the primary caretaker of our children, I would likely be granted custody, but I would have to recognize that Claire would be granted generous visitation time. We would split the property 50-50, but no alimony since our incomes were about equal. If I were awarded custody, Claire would have to pay alimony. As for the inheritance Claire received, she would keep it, which was of no concern to me. Our children were my main concern. I told him to prepare the papers and serve them after Monday based on irreconcilable differences, but asked him to stipulate that Claire must move out of our home immediately after service. The attorney said that, as guardian of the children, I would be within my rights to ask for this. When the children turned 18, the house would be sold, and we would split the sale price. I left the lawyer's office feeling satisfied that life would go on for me and the children, and that Claire would receive the punishment she deserved for her infidelity. I didn't immediately do anything about our finances, insurance, or will. I felt there would be time after she was served. With her inheritance, I didn't think she would have to worry about her share of our savings. It was almost time for the kids to go to school, so I headed home to be there for them when the bus stopped. When she returned Friday afternoon, I offered to do her laundry, but she thanked me and said she'd do it later. I just grinned to myself, thinking what a rascal I was for teasing her like that. I knew why she wanted to do her own laundry. The smell of love on it would give her away, and she had to hide her extramarital affairs at all costs. That night we made love again, though my heart didn't lie for it. When we were done, she seemed to sense some restraint on my part. "Is your stomach still bothering you, honey? Maybe you should see a doctor. It's been going on for too long." I thought I was being a little kind when I answered, "I'm going to try a new medicine that a friend told me about, and it should solve my stomach problems." "Well, I hope so. I want you back to work as soon as possible," she told me, snuggling up against me to sleep. God, how I'm going to miss her. On Monday, after the kids had left for school and Claire had left for work, I got a call from the private investigator's office saying they had a report ready for me. I said I'd be right over, and half an hour later I was sitting with the office manager. He told me that the report had been faxed that morning from Denton and some pictures had been sent in. He said he hadn't had time to read it in its entirety, but what he realized from running through it and looking at the pictures was that he thought it was terrible. I took a copy of the report from him and started reading. Subject, Claire Barton. I recorded an observation of the female in question at 5:17 p.m., Wednesday, June 16th, in the lobby of the Denton Marriott. Identity was established through a photograph obtained from the Merrickville office and a company name tag on the subject. The subject was carrying a briefcase and entered the elevator. My assistant rode the elevator with her and confirmed that she entered her room, 414, at 5:23. The subject was alone. A photograph of the subject dressed before entering the room is submitted as Exhibit 1A. I looked at 1A's photo and saw that she was dressed in her business clothes. It was clearly visible that she was wearing rings. He or she must have taken the picture with a cell phone. The partner remained in the room taken across the hall from the subject. At 6:31, the partner notified me that the subject had left the room and was riding in the elevator. At 6:32, the subject exited the elevator into the lobby. She was dressed as indicated in Appendix 1B. In the photograph in Appendix 1B, Claire was wearing her little black cocktail dress, high heels, with the necklace I gave her for our 10th anniversary, and looked like a lecherous damsel. There was enough detail in the photo to realize that she had no wedding rings on her left hand. The subject entered the dining area and ate a light dinner with a glass of wine. At 7:13, the subject left the dining area and entered the adjoining room where she took a seat at the bar and ordered a glass of wine. At 7:17, a lone male approached the subject and they talked for several minutes. See Exhibit 1C. A photograph of Exhibit 1C shows a tall, good-looking man talking to Claire outside the bar. After a few minutes of conversation, the subject nodded and followed the man to a booth near the dance floor. The subject spent 1 hour and 43 minutes with the male in the booth, danced with the male 6 times, and had intimate intercourse. See Exhibit 1D. The photograph submitted as Exhibit 1D showed Claire and the man in Exhibit 1C sitting in a booth in a close embrace and kissing. Her short dress was pulled up to her hips and his hand was underneath. At 8:51 a.m., the subject and the man left the restroom, took the elevator to the subject's floor, and entered her room, 414. See Exhibit 1E. Exhibit 1E shows Claire and the man from the restroom entering her suite. She looked a little tipsy but very happy. At 11:13 a.m., the male exited the subject's room and left the building. The man's license plate number is MBS 2892. It is registered to Alexander B. Tate, 1424 Azalea Doctor, Denton. The male is married and has 2 young children. I looked up the rest of the story, and the report indicated that she repeated her actions the next night with another man. It was signed by an investigator in Denton. My wife was a cheater when she left home. There was no way I could accept what she was doing. Even losing the rings didn't scare her enough to stop. After paying the private investigator the balance of the bill, I thanked him and left. I took 2 additional copies of the report with me, all on CD, and drove straight home. At home, I immediately called the divorce attorney and asked him what stage the divorce case was in. He told me they were ready to file, so I asked him to proceed with the filing process and asked if he could hand them over publicly at her work the next day. He said that wouldn't be a problem, and I gave him the address of her work. I wanted to hurt and humiliate her, and having her file at her job would go a long way towards getting back at me for what she did. We didn't have a love affair that night. I think she knew something was wrong, and probably realized I knew something, but was afraid to voice her concerns other than to say she hoped I would get better soon. Strangely, she seemed a bit reserved herself, but I let it pass without comment. In the morning, I got up early as I hadn't slept too well the night before. I worked on the computer until I heard the kids stirring. Then I went and started breakfast. After breakfast, I walked her to work and she came over to me to give me a hug and kiss before leaving for work. I gave her a little hug before escorting her out the door. I think she understood everything in that moment. There were tears in her eyes as I closed the door behind her, and she whispered, "I love you." When she left, I felt overcome with a tremendous sadness and wanted to cry myself, but the kids needed to be organized so I could get them ready for the school bus. The call came at about 10:45. The caller ID showed it was Claire's workplace, and I picked up the phone without answering it. There was a momentary pause while the caller accepted the fact that I wasn't going to talk. "I'm so sorry." Her voice said it in a whisper, and then the line dropped, and I hung up. She didn't come home that night, and I wondered if she was playing her little sick game of not caring about her husband anymore. I knew I had been cruel to her, but I retained a certain amount of justified rage. The kids wondered where Mom was, but I took them to Mickey D's for dinner, and by the time we got home, they were very tired and ready for bed. The next morning, she called. "Honey, can I come home and get my stuff and we can talk?" I felt a twinge of conscience, but it passed quickly. "Why don't you come between 9 and noon? Then the kids and I won't be here. As for the conversation, I'll talk to you one-on-one at my attorney's office once you sign, certify, and return the divorce papers. Then I'll listen to everything you have to say." A sob, then. "Okay." And the phone disconnected again. She signed the papers, and 6 months later, we were divorced final. She was pregnant, but had an abortion before the divorce. When she slept with her last lover, the protection broke, and it was close to her fertile period. So even though I discovered her cheating because she lost her rings, it probably would have been discovered anyway. I've heard she's back on the dating scene as well. I think if she gets close to marriage again, I would warn her future husband about her fidelity. There's no point in her locking horns with the two of us. We had a meeting, as I told her, at my attorney's office. She asked me to back out of the divorce. Not having unrestricted access to our children was hard on her, but I told her I just couldn't trust her anymore. She explained that she had seen a psychologist and he had diagnosed her with a form of nymphomania, and she was helped to deal with her addiction. She is now in control of her urges. I told her that this was not enough for me if she still had urges, and if she had sought help for her urges in the beginning, she would not be in the position she was in now. I left her crying in the lawyer's office. I am dating again, and I think I have found a woman I like, and I think I could easily fall in love with her. She is my age and divorced, caught her husband cheating and wouldn't put up with it. My kind of woman. The big plus for her is that the kids like her too. I guess it's only a matter of time until I pop the question. The end!